Hello, everyone, and welcome back for another episode of the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast, where we celebrate individuals and families, businesses, and organizations that seek out and promote the exploration, stewardship, conservation, access, and enjoyment of the outdoors. Gulf Shores and Orange Beach Tourism is the sponsor of our episode today. Warm temps and fresh seafood make the Alabama Gulf Coast the perfect beach destination for your family vacation, couples getaway, outdoor adventure, meetings, conferences, and conventions. Donaldson, Director at Alabama Bass Trail, is our guest on the podcast today. The Alabama Bass Trail is a cooperative effort between the Governor's Office, the Alabama Tourism Department, the Alabama Department of Conservation and Natural Resources, and the Alabama Mountain Lakes Tourist Association. Kay, it's a pleasure to have you on the Outdoor Adventure Series podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Anytime I get to tell the great news of the state of Alabama and our freshwater fisheries and even saltwater, even though we don't really focus on saltwater, I love to be able to take the podium and preach the good word on Alabama. So thank you for having me on.
It is a pleasure. And I learned from the commissioner at the Department of Natural Resources, and I believe also the director of the water conservation. Alabama has, perhaps between their ecosystems, some of the most pristine and popular and challenging fishing locations of anywhere else, at least in the continental United States. And I had never really realized that. Alabama Bass Trail, I mean, where did an organization like this get started? I mean, I imagine it's been around for a while.
We've been around for about 14 years. We started actually came together under the idea that BASS, the organization that really started competitive bass fishing, was relocating from Florida to the state of Alabama or to a state. They had a couple of options, and the state of Alabama just made sense. That's where we originated. That's where BASS started in Montgomery. But they wanted a state that was going to be more in line with promoting recreational fishing, really growing that next crop of anglers, and really being having a robust marketing ploy to really reach out to anglers. And so Alabama stepped up, and we had a big meeting in Birmingham, and we had a lot of communities that we knew really feasted off recreational anglers, from Weiss Lake, where the crappie is very big, to Lake Gunnersville, where you catch huge bass as well as great shell cracker. There's lots of great fishing throughout the state of Alabama. And so the idea was born to create something very modular of the Robert Trent Jones Golf Trail, and putting together a fishing trail that people could come to and kind of mark off their list that they've been there, and be a one-stop shop for people looking for a fishing vacation, a mancation, whatever. Maybe it's a family vacation that they wanna go to, and working with the different cities throughout the state of Alabama, the governor's office, Department of Conservation, and my office being headed out of the Alabama Mountain Lakes Association. March the 8th of 2012, we kicked this thing off, and it just has gone over like gangbusters, really.
That's fantastic. And I'm going to preach my naivete here to you, Kay. And actually, I think it's more like sharing my vulnerability. I have never really fished in my life, and again, I lived in Montgomery for a year, and that I had shared before the episode and started, and it never even dawned on me that besides perhaps Lake Martin, and there's one other lake that not the Gulf of Mexico, but one other body of water that I knew was around, and it never, for some reason, never set into me about the popularity, the access to all this wonderful natural resources, especially the fishing. And I'm curious, with your work with Alabama Bass Trail, how did you get into this business? Because I mean, just hearing you, your eyes light up and you're smiling. This has got to be
Yeah.
something you've grown up with, I'd imagine.
Well, I had a very special man in my life that taught me to fish, and it was my uncle. And he passed away, unfortunately, November prior to us launching prior to me launching the tournament series. But he actually got to attend the opening of the Alabama Bass Trail at Lake Gunnersville. But I worked for Alabama Mountain Lakes, and we realized that the top reason that people traveled to the 16 counties of North Alabama was because of the water. Very similar to the Gulf of Mexico, but our people traveled for fishing. They weren't traveling to boat and to recreate, they were traveling to go fishing. And when you look at 8 lakes that made up the 16 counties of North Alabama, some of the best fishing, whether it be catfishing, because we have monster catfish on Wheeler and Pickwick and Lake Gunnersville, but the bass fishing, the crappie fishing, the striped bass that you can catch that make you feel like you're catching a tuna or a red snapper, they're that big. Really cool, dynamic and the ecological, type of, cover and things that we have and the ecosystems that we have in North Alabama. We really started to do a deep dive in who our visitor was and what they were coming for, and we found out that fishing was the number one reason people were coming to North Alabama. So it just made sense for us to really capitalize on that and expand our marketing efforts in that way. So when, this all came about with the state, a lot of people just felt like I was a normal, uh, fit for that, for me to head up the Alabama Bass Trail. I got to meet with Governor Bentley, give him some of the ideas that I had for this particular project, and he agreed with it, and he was quite surprised as well that a female would be excited about a project like this, and it was something that I was very excited about. I'm still to this day the only full-time employee that runs the Alabama Bass Trail and our tournament series. I do love it. I do love the state of Alabama. And when you think about the God-given natural resources that we've been given in the 23 public bodies of water, and then you accent that with the awesome state parks that we have and all of those things that go into making a memory for a family or for a guy's trip or even a ladies trip that want to get away with a book club and get to a state park and be able to sit and watch the sunset over one of our Great Lakes. It just there's just endless possibilities when you're marketing something so beautiful, and then you think about the people who actually use the reservoir to feed their family. There's just so many cool things tied to the water in the state of Alabama, and I'm just fortunate to get to work and promote that.